Welcome to our all-new series, The Carnivore Kitchen, where we will indulge you in amazing meals and delicacies that are none other than carnivore. Where our presenter is none other than Shannon Richardson, owner and operator of the Lion's Share Meal Prep and Catering Company. I'm your host, Dr. Victoria Munoz. You're not going to want to miss this episode. Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Carnivore Kitchen. I'm here again with Shannon with the Lion's Share Meal Prep and Catering, and she has some really amazing treats for us today.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start a little series about sauces because it's come to my attention that while it's all over the internet, I think that it would be great to have it all in just like one place and just kind of do a series and teach everyone about the different types of sauces that are available, what kind of things are carnivore, and some other, I guess some different alterations on the sauces that I see out there. So the first one today that we're going to do is my Sahara Queen Alfredo sauce. So she's luscious, she's thick, she's just a big bodied item. She's a base of a cheese sauce, cream in a cheese sauce. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with that today.
Awesome.
Okay. All right, let me get started.
Let's get started.
So, all right. So back to our lovely kitchen. So I've gone ahead and I've started to just warm up our pan just a little bit. So that way she's not really hot. Like I could still pick her up. So we've got her on a low simmer. Just to kind of get the pan a little bit warmed through so that we don't get a curdling of a sauce. So here I have approximately a stick of butter or 4 ounces of butter. We're going to go ahead and add that to the pan first. We're going to go ahead and we're going to melt that on in. And we're also going to take 1.5 tablespoons, maybe almost 2. You kind of measure with your heart on the cheese. It's the original recipe calls for 1 tablespoon, but I like the cheese sauce, so I do about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of softened cream cheese. You could also do cold cream cheese if you'd like, but it slows down the mixing process. And so we're just going to go ahead and let this just kind of warm up together. Or we're going to let it melt in the pot. I'm going to take a minute or 2. I'm going to help that along. And at first it's not going to look very pleasant, but I want the cheese to kind of melt into the butter a little bit. Just mash it up. And the sauce is really relatively simple. You can go ahead and cook this in a matter of minutes. You can use it on just about anything. You can use it on chicken. You can use it on fish. You can use it on steak. Everybody does it a little bit different. I have seen out there they've got a new thing where people are doing some food science and they're making carnivore noodles, which are super great. We also have some other carnivore noodles that are made out of egg. So this is just a really delightful base sauce, and you can add all sorts of spices and things too. If you can tolerate that with being on a carnivore diet, if you can tolerate the spices, that'll be good for you too. Let's see here. Go through. And see, and it's not going to look very pleasant. It kind of looks like it's curdled, but it hasn't, I assure you. It's just the molecules separating and becoming an emulsion. I'm going to continue to mix that here. I'd like to see it get a little bit more warmed through. Okay, so like I said, that's 4 ounces of butter and a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of cream cheese, whichever you prefer. And then we're going to go ahead, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add 2 cups or 1 pint of heavy whipping cream to this. We're just going to add it straight on in. If any of you are really concerned about the amount that's left in the bottom, you can always use a spatula to clean that up. In the food industry, we call that food cost. Costs money. So I'm just going to try and heat this up a little bit more. And then we're just going to continue to whisk it. Because we do, in fact, want that butter to incorporate really well into that cream. You just keep whisking. Ooh, I'm sorry. And you just want to keep whisking and whisking and whisking. Eventually it'll get warm. And so by constantly keeping warmed up and warmed through and then also heated through, it might actually start to simmer and boil. You don't really necessarily want it to get to a boiling point. Definitely, you can have it simmering, slightly bubbling. However, you do want to keep that whisk going, because if you don't keep that whisk going, you're going to end up with a Maillard reaction, which is that browning at the bottom of the pan. And as you're scooping along the pan and scraping the pan, you're going to find these brown bits and pieces. And in order for her to be a luscious, velvety kind of white sauce, you don't want the brown bits. But then again, if you like brown, golden brown and delicious, that can be your jam too. Just doesn't look very pretty. So we're just going to keep whisking away. This can take a while. So this can take anywhere, it can take anything between, depending on the stovetop. If you're gas, sometimes it can take 10 minutes. If you're electric, like this one, sometimes it can take 20, 25 minutes. It just depends. But you want to just keep paying attention to it. Keep stirring it. You do not want to walk away from this sauce. Like I said, if you have any browning, it could boil over, it could burn. And then you'll end up with a huge, beautiful mess all over the place that you'll have to clean. Or if you have children, you'll tell them to clean it. But I'm not so fortunate right now. So we'll just keep mixing it. And as you can hear, as I'm mixing it, there's a sloshing sound. So that means that the sauce is still very thin. And so by heating it like this and creating and continually mixing it and agitating it, we are doing a reduction essentially. So we're reducing it down. We're creating a concentrated sauce of the cream and the butter and the cream cheese. Just takes a while. So, and by us stirring, it kind of gets a little bit foamy on top like that. So you're adding the bubbles. So the air creates a cushion on the bottom. So does the agitation, the whisk. So you will never really get a good, you won't get a brown on there. I'm going to pull off the whisk and I'm going to move to the spatula just because I have a preference for it. You can use a spatula if you want. I have a preference for it. It doesn't slosh around and get all over clothing and such. I just kind of, I also think I have a better feeling on the bottom of the pan. I can feel when it's starting to thicken and you can feel there's resistance on the bottom of the pan for like a scrape. So we've already been stirring the sauce for a while, and as you can tell, I took the whisk out. Bad juju, don't do that. But I stopped just long enough so that I could go ahead and tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and take our 1 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. I have a little bit of a mixture of really, really finely grained and then lightly grained Parmesan here. You want Parmigiano Reggiano or Pecorino or Romano. You want the straight cheese. You definitely want to try and make sure that you grate your own cheese if you can. It's the best way to tell that it's the less processed, I guess, is the better frame for it. So or term for it. You don't have all the caking agents or anything in there with the pre-shredded. However, and this tends to be more expensive, but if you can afford it, do this. If you can't, that's fine too. It's what you can tolerate, also what you can afford, okay? So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to add this in. It's about 1 cup. And people just dump it in a lot of times I've seen. I kind of like to add a little bit at a time, a little at a go. I think that it lessens the amount of graininess that comes with it, which essentially is almost like a broken cheese sauce. You've broken it, you've changed the molecules to make it oil. And Sometimes it can also not be so stretchy or stringy or velvety, I guess would be a better term. So more. And I do still have it on a pretty much a medium high heat right now. I'm going to keep it there until I get all of this incorporated. The moment I do, make sure it all gets in there. Okay, the moment it starts to look like that, where you're not seeing any of the cheese floating on top, we're going to immediately take it down to maybe medium low. Just use the whisk and see. Right now you can see, as well as I can feel it on the whisk, that it's done something called tightening up. So it's creating that thickness that we want. And we're still on that heat. Still want to create a good velvety sauce that's thickened up nicely. However, we don't want the brown. See how it's still kind of on the bottom like that? Not really hot yet. Let's agitate some more. Not fully melted. I'm going to take this. Oops, making a mess. If you can get it off there, that's great. If you can't, do your best. Pull it off. Go in with my spatula. I'm gonna let it go and continue to heat through a little longer. And the more time that she spends under a warm heat and the agitation and the stirring, the more tight or the thicker she will become. If you want a thinner sauce, you can go ahead and have if you want a thicker sauce, you can add more cheese. If you want a thinner sauce, you can add less cheese if you'd like. If you don't tolerate cheese, I don't know what to tell you. You can just have the regular cream sauce and just reduce it down. But really, an Alfredo sauce is cream with the cheese. So right now she's getting thicker, but she's not quite. Like the last time we talked, we did the little finger test for the nappe. She's looking pretty. Not quite thick. Take her off the heat for a second. That's the great thing about cooking too, is that if you feel like it's getting too hot, just yank her off the heat. You could still leave the stove on. It'll still generate heat. It'll still stay on that temperature, but your sauce can go ahead and cool just a little bit. And tightened. Back on. Do this with eggs too. See, we still have a nice, good, creamy, velvety kind of sauce. It's not too bad. Still moving it all around so we're not getting the brown bits. Move it off again. Let's see here. Let's check again. We're still kind of thin. We are. I think we'll be okay. And then at this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in something called Herbs de Provence. It's just an herb blend that you can get. This one happens to be from Trader Joe's. So this one has essentially, if you can tolerate a blend of spices or seasonings, this one has thyme, marjoram, savory, rosemary, basil, sage, and even a touch of lavender. It'll add a really great depth of flavor to it. And this is about a teaspoon. So I'm going to add in 2 just based on the size and the amount that I have here of the sauce. And I'm going to go ahead and just mix that in. And once again, I've taken it off the heat so it doesn't continue to cook while I add that. While I add in the seasonings. So that way we don't have the browning on the bottom of the pan. You want to make sure to pay attention to those sides too. Keep the sides down as much as you can. Go ahead and we'll add it to the heat a little bit. It's going to continue. When she's starting to steam up and warm through. Now I'm okay with a thinner sauce. I don't know how do you feel? Do you like the thinner sauce, or do you want me to?
I like thicker myself, but
Okay. So, actually, I'm so used to having this back in the day with with noodles, the noodles just soak up all the sauce. So I like a thinner sauce because it won't stand on top of the sauce. It gets into
Oh,
the noodles. But
yeah.
back in the day, I remember, speak about it fondly, I did, but I still remember that I was the sickest I ever was.
Well, we can also teach our viewers how to make carnivore noodles.
Oh, we definitely will be doing that. I have been doing a lot of research and study on that. There's lasagna coming up, possibly some
Oh,
ravioli.
wow. Lots to look
Some
forward to.
I've got some good plans coming up here, so
Good.
but I figured you needed a good foundation. You needed to understand sauces and how those work. In cooking school, that's what we do. We learn all the mother sauces first. We learn all that before we even touch a piece of meat about cooking or anything. We learn how the sauces are. We learn about butter. We learn how to chop, dice, all the vegetables. But of course, that's in a culinary school. So, okay, let's see. Still not there yet.
Right.
Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've stirred for a while. I've added the herbs de Provence, and then I also added a little bit of some salt to it too, because initially upon tasting it, it tasted great, a wonderful herby flavor with some cheesy bite to it, but not salty enough, which is really surprising. But, that's a good rule of thumb, is to always season as you go and do it to taste. And I think we've accomplished. It's still a little bit thin. It'll tighten up as it cools, but we did approach a pretty okay nappe there.
That
It's
looks good.
still a little thin, but I think that it's doable. So we're gonna go ahead and take it off the heat. Okay. So at this point with our sauce, it's thickened up enough. You can do one of two things. You can either put these on a plate warmed through, you can grill them up on the grill and cook them all the way through and then set them on a plate and then pour the sauce over it. Or we're going to just go ahead and pour these into the sauce. With this shrimp, it's approximately a 35 to 41. They call it a count. So it's 35 to 41 pieces of shrimp per pound is the usual average for that. And that's why it would indicate that on the packaging. You can also get the raw, which they look kind of gray. And then when you cook them, they create this sea as well as they turn a little bit pink. Then also you can get them deveined. So there's a little vein that runs through the back of the shrimp right here. I happen to purchase the ones that were deveined. I don't like to deal with that. It's a little more expensive, probably maybe 10 cents more a pound, but worth it. And these did come with tails on. So in my prep, I went ahead and just pulled off the tails so it would be a little easier to eat without having to stick our fingers in the sauce. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and add it to the sauce. And also just a note, once I did do a little bit of the prep work for this, these were already pre-cooked, so they were already pink. I just defrosted them. I did salt them just a little bit, just for a little bit of added flavor. I'm gonna go ahead. Normally I would just dump it in there, but I don't want to splash today. I do not want to wear my sauce. So we're gonna go ahead and gently stir that in. You can tell, see it started to cool off a little bit. It's a little thicker, not a ton thicker. It's not a complete desired result, but it'll do. It's nice and tossed in there. And of course, with time, it'll still cool off. And the sauce, you can go ahead and refrigerate the sauce without the shrimp in there. It'll last anywhere between 5 and 7 days. But since I've added the shrimp in, it's best if you eat it now or maybe 1 to 2 days after. You would want to discard any unused portion to prevent any foodborne illnesses. So there we go. And then we're going to go ahead and we'll plate this and then we're going to give it a taste test. There we go. Okay, so we still have a relatively thin sauce, but we're going to go ahead and plate anyway. We're just going to put a whole bunch of these guys on here. We're just going to spoon it out onto a plate. If you like the sauce, you can go ahead and put it in a bowl. Sometimes I do that. Just eat it like a soup, like a little shrimpy soup. I know I'm a little bit weird, but I like it like that. Sauce is still beautiful, and if you look at it, it's still velvety. There's not really a ton of grains to that other than the fact that there's maybe just a little bit in there for the seasonings. It's a beautiful, beautiful velvety cheesy sauce.
All right, so the moment we've all been waiting for, we are going to officially try this dish.
Okay.
All right.
Let's show you what that
So
looks
here
like.
it is. Looks amazing, huh? Oh, it smells amazing. You should be here. All right.
Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Ready to dig in.
Drum roll.
Can't do that without spitting everywhere. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Okay, that's not bad this time.
I know I say this every time. It's true. This
one's actually good. This one's super good.
This is the best one yet.
Yeah, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
It still could use a little bit more salt, I think. I feel. But definitely good.
Yeah, keep in mind that the cheeses and the creams that we're using are almost no carb. Maybe less than 1 gram per serving. So,
Yep. Very, very, very minimal, if at all, negligible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, this is actually good. I like it. Yep, for sure.
Yes.
Beautiful
See,
sauce.
you can eat like a king. You can be on carnivore diet and be as healthy as a horse.
Yep.
Are horses healthy?
Yes.
Okay,
They're
good.
vegetarian though. Lions can eat like a king.
I'm not a veterinarian. I'm just a people doctor.
I'm just a people doctor. It's super good. It's not too bad.
Even though many humans aren't that healthy. So
that's true. That is true. Although super good, super delicious. I'm gonna like, yeah. See, we're gonna fight over it. We don't cheese off camera. We fight over the food. Good.
I could literally take a spoon and just eat the sauce.
And even without the spices, it will still be good and adequate. We actually have, you know, if you added a little bit more salt, like I mean, I tend to not eat a lot of salt. Just naturally, I tend to not eat a lot of salt. So it's to your preference. So lots of salt, no salt, doesn't matter. Whatever you can tolerate.
I always recommend salt to taste. You know, don't overdo it, don't underdo it, don't worry about salt. But you definitely need salt in your diet. But
that's true.
Just do it to your preference.
Notice something on.
Go ahead.
So, yep, I'm good.
Go.
I'm full.
Oh, you're good. Okay.
No, I'm full.
She said she's good, so I'm finishing.
Yep, she should eat it all. So, good stuff. Yeah, not too bad.
I could eat another plate of that. Well, guys, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Carnivore Kitchen. This is Shannon Richardson with the Lion's Share Food Prep and Catering, and we'll see you next time.